That's what it sounds like on the pickleball courts here at Century Village East in Deerfield Beach, Florida. For more than 40 years, Jewish snowbirds from Canada have been coming here to South Florida to their vacation condos to enjoy the sunshine and escape the winter and to do all the activities in the village. It's really like a summer camp for the over 55 set. And as for COVID, well, it's really not so top of mind here compared to back home. There are drive-through COVID testing windows on every corner, including at pharmacies like CVS and Walgreens, and it's free for Canadians. Mask wearing is optional, and everyone seems relaxed about the whole thing. Last year, COVID lockdowns in Canada and fear and no vaccines convinced many Jewish retirees not to make the trip. But this year, with folks double-vaxxed and with the COVID situation in Florida, the lowest per capita in America right now, officials estimate that about 90% of the 8,000 condo owners here are coming back or are already here. And if you were waiting and you didn't book a rental, you're out of luck. They're all booked. Despite the news about the new Omicron South African variant, the clubhouse is holding concerts and events again. The Black Friday sales after Thanksgiving attracted people to Costco, and Canadians who are eligible have already gotten or are about to get their boosters.
People should be cautious if they are coming down, not to be afraid, but to exercise care. You know or are told that staffs are not wearing masks, then you decide for yourself. This is the free United States and free Florida. And as I say, there's a governor here who doesn't seem to care too much about masks, and so he says, come on down, spend your money here.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Wednesday, December the 1st, 2021. Welcome to the CJN Daily from Florida, sponsored by Metropia. I came down 10 days ago from Toronto, and it was my first plane trip since the pandemic hit. I'm double-vaxxed, but still it was very nerve-wracking to get the antigen test and book some PCR tests to return. I booked 2 just in case. And on the plane, people were not wearing their masks correctly, even though the flight attendant announced that if passengers didn't put their masks over their noses too, they would be handed over to authorities when we landed in Fort Lauderdale. But this is Florida. And after the big spike of COVID in the summer, Florida is doing great, and more Canadian Jewish visitors are arriving every day, especially once the land border with the U.S. reopened on November the 8th. Coming up, you'll meet Sidney Margles. He's from Montreal. He's been coming to Century Village for 21 years, but he stayed away last year, like many people did, due to COVID. He'll share how they plan to stay safe this season. But first, here's what's making news elsewhere in Canada right now.
I am Dr. Doris Greenspoon, CEO of the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario. I'm extremely proud to speak with Jewish Canada, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has announced that Professor Irwin Cotler has been reappointed for another term as Canada's Special Envoy for preserving Holocaust remembrance and combating anti-Semitism. He's being appointed for up to a year, and the Canadian government appointed him as Canada's anti-Semitism czar in November of 2020. Cotler's worked tirelessly in this role, including convening the Liberal government's emergency summit on anti-Semitism in July and leading Canada's delegation to the recent Malmö, Sweden summit, and developing a list of priorities for government action on things like hate crimes and regulation of social media sites, beefing up education, and more. Ottawa says it'll be renewing its anti-racism strategy in the new year and adding a national action plan, which is what Cotler has been calling for. Sidney Margles is a retired radio news broadcaster for CJAD in Montreal, and he's a well-known Canadian snowbird here at Century Village. I caught up with him at his condo. What was the reason that you decided to come this year?
I had no quarrels with coming down. We're going to be as careful here as we have been at home. For example, going out to eat where we have gone out, it's been to outdoor facilities. We have not gone to eat indoors, although we've seen in some places indoors where they have a fair degree of separation. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. We've both been inoculated with 2, and we'll get our booster dose next month, which will be 6 months after having our second injection in Montreal.
So what do you notice about how it is here? Are people as careful as you would have been expecting, or no? I mean, I didn't see people
It's a very mixed situation down here. In some places, people are wearing masks. For example, at the major food store, all the employees are wearing masks, not all of the customers. We've decided we're not going to the theater here, even though right now they're sitting 2 rows apart and seats apart. We understand that starting in January, they will be modifying that decision, that people will be sitting closer, and we may not go at all.
What about golfing? Will you drive in the same cab with car, like golf cart with people?
Oh yeah, golf. You're outdoors. I have no quarrel. We golfed all summer this year. We golfed all summer last year at home.
You said that you're not going to the theater, but are there all things back to normal in terms of what you can do here at Centuryville?
Well, I think people can go play tennis. They're playing shuffleboard, pickleball, volleyball. I guess any outdoor activity is
Golf,
back to normal. Indoor activities, I know at the gym they're restricting classes to 20 people, which is probably a third of the size of what they would normally have. I'm not a gym goer, so it doesn't affect me. There are some people who are still on their bicycles, and
Are you
basically.
guys going to have your meetings usually?
Well,
the men's group?
the men's group they haven't decided. We've had meetings in the past with speakers and so on, the same as the Canadian Club, but that hasn't been determined yet. I suspect it'll be scaled down, if at all. And of course, the other activity is hanging out at the swimming pool, and we have 22 pools here, so people will be hanging out as the weather allows you to do.
And having your 2 vaccines, does that make you feel a bit more comfortable coming down with that, or you're still waiting for number 3?
Oh no, we're comfortable.
Throw caution to the wind,
We're comfortable with 2 vaccines. We'd like to get the booster just to get a little more safety or security. But look, anyone could pick up COVID even if you have been inoculated.
Is everybody that you see, all your friends, are they all back, or have some people decided to sell? What's the situation?
Well, there's a mixed group. There are a few older friends who have decided to sell, in part because the insurance costs are getting to be quite onerous to come down. Let's be realistic. Anyone who comes down to the United States from Canada without medical insurance is an idiot. I'm being very blunt, because the costs down here could be horrendous. God forbid you end up in the hospital. Other people, unfortunately, have had some illnesses or some scares in the last few months. The insurance wants you to be anywhere from 3 to 6 months clear of any medical problem. So some people that we know, for example, will not come down until February as a result.
And how was it not coming down last year, mentally and physically?
Well, put it this way. When you're at home in Montreal in the winter for the first time in 20 years, it's a bit of a shock. We did go out and purchase coats and hats and boots because we didn't have winter clothing to speak of.
Not even an old-fashioned one somewhere in the cupboard, like a ski jacket from 30 years ago?
Didn't even have that. So right now they're in a storage box at home. Even snow tires. Hadn't used snow tires in 15, 18 years, so I have a set of 4 snow tires sitting in the locker. So it was not as difficult a winter as one might have expected. Of course, the weather was good to us in that sense. You could go out walking. It was fairly sunny on many days. So it was not the end of the world, but it certainly was not like being down here.
And that's That's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. Integrity, community, quality, and customer care. Today's listener shout-out goes to Rachel Har in Toronto. She's the Canadian Director of United Hatzalah. That's the Israeli Emergency Motorcycle Rescue Agency. And we'll end the episode with a little gift for you from me. For all of you who are shoveling snow, or maybe you're bummed out about the latest COVID variant, it's a little present to be mindful. So here's what the birds sound like where I am.